A few years back, I did a series where I covered the best Pokemon of every typing for an in-game run. I felt like I left out a lot of mons that could have just as easily been brought up. With that aspect in mind, along with me bringing back more best teams to the channel as of late, I felt like covering mons from each type that were pretty decent for an in-game run. Also, just to clear things up so everyone doesn't think this is just the strongest Icemon list, through competitive means, most of these mons are pretty bad. But if you've watched my vids over the years, and you've paid close attention to the best team series, you'll notice that some mons are better for in-game means. This list will also not be targeted towards one specific game. It will be targeted for all the main series games, so a mon could be solid for just one game, or in fact multiple, depending on how many times it recurs across the series. Before we begin though, I have a lo-fi music channel where I'm currently working on a book involving this special character Luna. So if you're interested in some chill tracks to study/relax to, while also learning more about this character through the power of lo-fi, consider checking out Luna's World in the description below. But with that said, let's get started. Starting off, we have a Kanto mon that surprisingly is a little late to obtain in Kanto. But then again, what Kanto Icemon isn't late game? Where Cloyster really highlights in my opinion is definitely in Scarlet and Violet, where you can get your hands on a set of loaded dice. Multi-hit moves are Cloyster's specialty, and with the loaded dice being introduced, not only does it not do bad in competitive 6v6, but it will also slay in-game as well. Well, it used to slay more in competitive, but power creep. Icicle Spear stacked with the loaded dice will decimate, especially when stacked with Shell Smash. In Kalos and Alola, Shellder can also be found pretty early, thus being evolved pretty early too. The loaded dice doesn't exist yet, but Cloyster is still a great ice type, especially when equipped with Razor Shell and then TMs like Ice Beam. Shell Smash can also be taught via Move Relearner. For Galar and Kanto, Shellder is a little later to obtain, but not completely impossible to use. It's also decent in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, because thank God you can actually get the Water Stone at a decent point in the game. It's no surprise that this mon would be on the list, considering it's a best team superstar for the earlier gens, Lapras. In Gens 1 through 4 for the Kanto and Johto games, Lapras is a solid mon for taking on some pretty important trainers, such as Lance for instance. In Kanto, it's not obtainable until Silphco, but it's a great substitute for a mon like Starmie, considering it's version exclusive. For Johto, Lapras can be obtained right after you get Surf, thus being able to capture it in the Union Cave. And then you'll have it for taking on Jasmine's Steelix, Claire's Dragons, Lance's team, etc. Another instance where you can get Lapras at a decent point in time is actually in Kalos. Having an early to mid-game Ice type is always effective, as Ice takes on a chunk of important battles, considering Ice is super effective on a plethora of typings, alongside its Water typing as well. What also helps Lapras a ton is getting Ice Beam at a decent level. In most instances, Lapras will get Ice Beam in the 30s, which is pretty insane. Not to mention, you also get to keep your Ice Beam TM. Lapras's bulk is also nice. A mon that I want to shout out in the earlier gens is Jinx. In Gens 1 through 3, especially for Kanto and Johto, Jinx, in my opinion, was the go-to Ice type for any playthrough. Alongside its Ice typing, also came the Psychic typing, which covered the Ice typing's fighting weakness. That typing was supreme for taking on the mid to late game for Kanto and Johto. What helped with this case was also being able to have Ice Punch as a special attack. Thank you, no physical special split. Only downside about Johto was that the Psychic TM wasn't available until Kanto. Unless you had Crystal, where you were able to get Smoochum via Egg and have it learn Psychic at level 37. Jinx can be used in later gens, it's just in Gens 1 through 3 is where it really shined to me. So this next mon is a no-brainer. Being introduced in Gen 4, Weavile. I'm sure you guys don't need me to tell you that Weavile is amazing, but I'm going to anyways. What I really love about Weavile is the fact that it's really useful against Cynthia's Garchomp, being not only quad effective, but also much faster than it as well. In Platinum, the best Sinnoh by the way, the Weavile line has access to Ice Punch via Tutor, and that's also at a pretty good point in the game as well. Most of the base games also have some kind of Psychic or Ghost type important battle, whether it's a late game gym leader or some kind of Elite Four member. With its immense attack and being able to have access to some powerful dark stabs, it can shred its enemies with ease. Dark and Ice is just a killer combo, and it covers most of the types across the board, thus making it a prominent member to anyone's teams, and a big check mark for important battles. Case in point is Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Didn't I just talk about you last week in the best team for Sinnoh No Starter Edition? And yeah, I actually did. Well, Manny's back again. And not a moment too soon. What I love about Mamoswine is how early you can get it, being right when Piloswine gets access to Ancient Power. You might have to move relearn it, but it doesn't take that long to find a heart scale in most games. In the later gens, it becomes even easier to get due to being able to move relearn right from the team menu. But the ground and ice typing packed together is an ultimate tag team matchup. They complement each other pretty well, being able to contest most important trainers across the board in a lot of main series games. One of my favorite instances of this is definitely Cynthia. In Heart Gold and Soul Silver as well, it's one of the few newly introduced Sinnoh Mons that can actually be used, because Mons like Togekiss and Gliscor got shafted due to them not being available until post-game. That Ancient Power evolution is top-notch. Its level up set is alright, but that's fine when there are TMs out there that can fix the problem. I'll say it again, it's like Weavile, in the sense of, it's a late game roster's worst nightmare with this deadly combination alongside the coverage it provides. It's a physical unit with a decent speed, and sometimes that's all that's needed. Baxcalibur is the most recent pseudo-legend added to the Pokemon roster. It comes with the deadly set of stats and the great typing of Ice and Dragon. Like most pseudos, yes, it can't be found until later in-game, but when you have candies and easy level up resources, it's not as hard to get in my opinion. And, like most dragons, its move pool is pretty vast. It's obviously going to be the most useful when going up against the Elite Four, and even the last tournament of the game. Legit, if you can just set up one Dragon Dance, mostly everything is dying. 87 speed isn't the fastest, but if you happen to have some speed EVs in there that you randomly got from trainers, it should be fine. Add on a loaded dice with Icicle Spear, and a lot of things should go down. Bax is actually really fun, and I highly recommend it to anyone who just picked up Scarlet and Violet. Well, that wraps up the first segment of me recommending a specific type of Pokemon for a playthrough. I feel like you guys are more oriented towards casual Pokemon versus the competitive side, so I'm gonna start doing more content oriented towards playthroughs. And to be honest, I enjoy doing more content from this angle anyways. What do you guys think though? Did I miss any ice types that you guys have had a lot of success using in the past? Are there any instances where you guys have had success using some of the Mons recommended on this list? Let me know down below. For now though, I'm gonna go cope with the fact that Cloyster is an NU.